Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Eden, Just Be spiritual boom in association with the Grassroots Warriors Network. Harry in the UK. How are you?
Really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm so glad to have you here today. I've been studying, we just talked about this a little bit off air, watching Harry's Rumble channel. So good and so informative. And you just said you try to do 2 shows a week. It takes you about 2 hours to prepare for the shows. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Harry, okay, it's his Rumble channel is going to be listed in the comments as well. I have been doing my show for a while, and I started out just with me. And I think after episode 35, because I was telling a lot of truths and all that, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So then I started having guests on the show, but you do it. Usually it seems like an hour and a half, where it's just you diving into everything by yourself. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a journey of looking at all this stuff now. So it's almost like a continuation, just constantly connecting the dots, putting pieces together and using what we're being shown in the outside world now to make more sense of everything that has been put out there already. And it's just like one evolving story, which has more and more pieces that keep coming out at the moment. So it's always expanding.
Man. All right. So, what I also like about Harry is, talk about the Great Awakening and the truths here on the show. Yet there's always a positive. It's always positive and it's always good, even though there are hard things to look at and to see, but that's part of what this is. So I appreciate that you also have a very positive bent. And I also today love talking to someone who's not American and talking about Trump and everything, because America is key, regardless of me being an American. Oh, America's so, no, it's not that. It's just that the way this country goes, so much is going to fall out of that. So I'm excited to talk about that. Quick thing. So Jen Hancock, who was episode 165, turned me on to Harry. So she's a vaccine injury story. So just quickly, on her 37th birthday, she was diagnosed with a rare aggressive cancer with a 10-week testing period to determine if she would survive or not. Amputation. And in her story, she gives a whole bunch of props to Harry in terms of opening her eyes. So I reached out to him. This is how this is all the connection. And for Jen, help Jen thrive on GoFundMe to assist her and watch her story. It is just wow. Okay, so let's read your bio. How about? Okay, Harry, the soul coach. He began his journey in the fitness industry in 2007, successfully running 2 personal training studios and a fitness education company for 12 years. And let me add, he told me he hasn't been on another podcast for a year and a half, so we're incredibly excited to have him. So when the world went into lockdown, like so many of us, which happened to me too, his heart opened up. Let me clear my throat for a second. The COVID pandemic hit his business hard, leading to liquidation, but also sparked his evolution as a coach. He found joy in the profound impact he was having with clients and qualified as a meditation instructor through the Chopra Foundation, creating personalized meditation journeys that led to magical experiences in just 20 minutes. Heck yeah. Working with people facing cancer like Jen, their raw soul truth inspired him to embrace the title Soul Coach. He gives clients both one-on-one and in groups to uncover their inner power by bringing awareness to their words, ego, and actions. I'm going to clear my throat again. Hold on. Okay. During this time, while living in Brazil, he returned to face the lockdowns in the UK, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And stood firm in his lawful rights, refusing quarantine. He was arrested and in a cell for a few hours, yet they had to let him go. He did a video about it that went viral, amplifying his voice for truth from 2021 onward. Truth, soul, and spirituality are deeply interwoven, and he has been riding a solar coaster ever since. Love that. Helping others embrace their truth and share their story. So let's go into just a moment more about your Rumble channel, how it came to be, what the purpose was for you. And like for me, so I was in a constitution based group and it dissolved because there was some ego involved. And so then for me, it's like, what can I do that I have complete control over? No one can change what I say or what I do. And started this. And it hasn't stopped since then because the same thing for me, being a soul type person, like I just couldn't be quiet. I had to let, people know. And is that how it started for you?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I had my gym business for many years, and I'd been diving into truth since about 2009. And then 2012, 2015, I was literally looking at stuff all the time. And the problem was when I had a business with a business partner, I used to put stuff up on Facebook and then get told off for putting it up, where I'd then apologize, take it down, and then say I won't do it again. And then about a few weeks later, I'll post another one on. And that was just a continuation where I used to really upset a lot of people by the stuff I put out there.
Okay, can I ask you, Harry, what in 2009, what started you looking, going, something's just not gelling?
It was a guy at the gym that I was working with who said, go and watch this documentary called Zeitgeist. And it was like the original conspiracy one. And it was three topics. It was the banking system, 9/11, and religion, where it used religion and said, look at the stars and look at all the stories. And they all pretty much talk about the same thing, but just using different words. And it was very boring because I remember bringing it back to my mum and dad. I was at their house then, and they both fell asleep on the sofa while we was watching it. But the 9/11 got me a bit fascinated, and because it didn't feel a bit right. But a few years later, it was the Boston Marathon, if you remember that one, and there was a
Yes, I
bomb at
do.
the end of it. And as soon as I looked into that, it was like they're lying. You can see their actors, and that person had their legs blown up, but they're walking over there, and then it led into Sandy Hook, and then all of a sudden there was false flags all the time, and there was all these pages that just kept putting this information out, and I just found it so fascinating. But I always led the belief that there was just evil people at the top of this world controlling everything, and we just had to make the most of our lives because you've got no hope because you are being controlled until 2020 when I realized that there was good people fighting for us, and it changed everything after that.
Wow. All right. When you start, so for me, COVID was the bam. All right. So you starting earlier, and I have many people on the show that started earlier, and some people who came into this world just knowing right off the bat that things weren't right. How alone were you at that time,
Not,
apologizing and
not. I still took personal responsibility for it because I did have a personal training business. We had lots of clients in the city, and it wasn't good for the company brand. So I kind of saw the logic within that, but I just thought that was me being naive and just putting out stuff that was irrelevant at that point. I didn't really have the attachment to what I have now, where I actually see the influence it's having on the entire world. And if people actually paid attention, their whole lives would change because they would let go of fear instantly, knowing that only good's happening. And I have the experience now from back then. It's only got lighter. Like, yes, you wake up at a certain time, you get shown a lot of darkness, and it's a lot of you, but it's
yeah.
not. It's only got lighter, and it's only because we're being shown more and more and more people talking about it, and that's been the constant message going out there is that people, if you understood where we was, there was very few people talking about stuff, and you'd get ridiculed back then. Now it's normal daily conversation to the point where you're even able to gauge, I'm not having a conversation with that person because it's going to kick off. You couldn't do that before.
Cool. Oh gosh, I had a question in my head and it just went away, but I guess I'm supposed to wait to ask that. All right, when talk about your life, is it? Let's go to as a kid. Did you ever expect that you would be not only your soul coaching but having your channel? Were you a little bit of a rebel as a child or a free thinker?
Yeah, I would say so. I was big into sports, so I was always quite competitive.
Okay.
I do all different disciplines as well, so I do a lot of activities where I was on my own, and now looking back, I was in my thoughts all the time, and I was more running with my soul, and I was getting all my different insights and stuff. And my whole career has always been service. So I've been helping transformations and going a bit deeper than just giving a workout. It was looking at the whole lifestyle, and but I never saw myself on camera. I remember when we first started the business and we started doing videos and we were doing like the cheesy gimmick ones and stuff, and I couldn't do it. I didn't enjoy it at all. Whereas now, if you hear me on camera, I rarely stutter. I rarely say, So when I look at myself back then and when I started that process, there's definitely been an evolution there. And I like the fact that I can talk and be myself now. And whereas if you were working for a company, there's still kind of a way that you have to be to represent. Whereas I like just to be myself and be as honest and open as possible.
And it is when I used to do the show by myself, it was probably 30 or 40 minutes, like just watching. And I did a show recently just with me and was like, okay, I'm not going to do any notes. And I ended up talking for a while because it does get easier. But yeah, and on your channel, the information and showing your screen. And I mean, it is, you get okay, y'all check out Harry's channel. He gets if you have any question about anything going on in the world, he pretty much nails it. Can you, for a second, explain Q from your perspective?
Yeah, so it was a military operation that back when hardly anyone was paying attention, Donald Trump had just come in as president. And after about 5 months, October 2017, on these back channels, there was a post to say Hillary Clinton has just been arrested. And it was post number one. So that got people's attention. And then every single day, there was a series of posts. And a lot of the information back then was talking about Saudi Arabia and financing corruption. And it just led from one thing to the next to the point where they were addressing what they call gatekeepers. And the Q post would say, we know you're watching, but whatever you try to do now, you're not going to win. And over the course of 4 years leading up to 2020, there was pretty much daily posts. And the Q is for question. So all it left was lots of questions. Well, who financed this and what happened in this country? Look over to Saudi Arabia. Look what's happening now. Who is Bint al Walid? And if you were following along, you'd mostly have two posts that you work with each day, and you're literally searching for the questions. And then all of a sudden, there's more and more people putting this message out there. And there's a lot of people that still challenge Q. But anyone that challenges Q, they've never been on the Q posts. And because if you'd gone on Q, you'd see it's told us everything.
So how were you directed there? Were you there right at the beginning?
No, I wish I was. I wish I was. It was 2020, and I had a pass. I met a lady in Hawaii on a retreat, a Deepak Chopra retreat, and she said she did past life regression. And at some point, she said, book in for a session with me. And I was quite skeptical. In fact, I'm very skeptical of a lot of stuff still because I see that there's a lot of deceivers out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I said eventually I was ready. I think I'm ready for it now. I'm getting more spiritual. And it was through Zoom. And she said, look, what we're going to do is you're going to then turn off the camera, turn off your phone, and you're just going to lay in your bed and you're just going to feel. And I'm going to be working where she was in America on there. And I remember turning it off, laying in my bed thinking, she's conning me here. I've just paid $70 for this and I'm just laying here. And I remember we got back on the phone again. She said, did you feel anything? No. Did you feel your hands tingle? No. And she looked at me and she said, Harry, you won't feel anything now if you haven't, but you will. Just look out for the signs. And that night I watched the video And I'm like,
Okay,
oh
so
my,
wait a minute. You left the call also going, okay, seeing the signs, whatever. Thank you so much. Click. And then
yeah,
that night, okay, go
that night.
ahead.
Yeah, and I just watched one video and it just clicked that the military are obviously the good guys, and I saw it all, and I saw Donald Trump, and something in me, it was just this knowing. It's like, oh, and it's the first time in my life I realized that there was good people fighting for us. But I had this knowing, and then it allowed me just to go and dive into it, and it changed everything after that. So around that time it was when looking, the odd Q post would get mentioned. And yeah, once I got hold of the Q website and started going into, that's where a lot of my research kind of unfolded from, because it's almost like a foundation. There's a lot of information from a lot of people out there, and
Mhm.
there's very few where you can honestly trust because it's all about the messenger. But that is your reference point, and it's almost, for me, it connected me more with God. It connected me more with my faith. And it led me into biblical scripture, which I stayed away from my whole life. But the way that I use QPost is the way that I would use now Bible. I'm not a religious person at all, but it might be one word or one quote, and I say, what can I find in the Bible? And you just find all this beautiful text which I can relate to my teachings. I call it a soul slap. It'll give me a little soul slap if I've been getting frustrated about certain things, and I just see a nice simple reminder. It's all good, and then I go again. So yeah, Q's opened up a lot for me.
Okay, and it's so, to watch the mainstream media about QAnons and that they're crazy and, the adrenochrome and child trafficking and pedophiles. And of course, they make it seem like, if you follow that or whatever, you are cuckoo because they want to make you look bad.
If you look at the word Q anon, if you break it down, I love words.
Let's hear it.
A non-conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy.
Nice. Okay. Oh my gosh, I have questions and suddenly they come in and they leave. It's so funny. Normally that doesn't happen. Okay, let's go into to Trump. I have, most of the people on my show are incredibly spiritual, probably like 95%. Then I have truthers and patriots on too, but everybody is coming to a much more spiritual side and seeing that the Great Awakening here is just this spiritual opening and humanity ascending. So I also have some folks on that are like, in terms of all politics, do not trust anyone and be discerning. And I agree with that. Yet in my heart, also with Trump, I know he's not a savior, but I feel so good. Can't be bought. If you want to throw in a galactical component as well, I feel like he's really working for the good guys. What's your impression on
Yeah,
him?
if you took Trump away and just see what's going on in the world at the moment, we're combating terrorism, we're locking all these cartel members up, putting them in prison, we're going after horrible pedophiles, and you're saving the kids, we're bringing world peace, we're stopping wars. And there's one constant, it's Donald Trump. And the thing is, people get so caught up on that name based on, you just got to think it's been Trump every single day for our whole lives for the last decade. And I ask people, go beyond Trump to start with, but once you start looking at all these topics, it always comes back to Trump, and it's always Trump is the one that's doing it. So yeah, for me, when people mention a savior, I always say, what do you need saving from? We don't need saving. We're all good already. But you've got someone who's a figure point that triggers so many people, and I feel that the Trump is the next level for spirituality, because in spirituality, we talk about attachment. It's attaching to a name. And I feel that you can read someone very well at what level they are in their awakening just by the conversation of Donald Trump. Because if you get a faith expression at all, you can kind of gauge where to go. If you get an angry reaction, you'd say maybe more on the left, more in the matrix. And it is being able then to navigate of how to put the right information into there, which is usually questions where people can't then argue with. And like as you mentioned earlier, I've got my Rumble channel and I back up everything that I put out there.
You do.
And any doubts that people have is like, listen to what I'm saying. We are in full control, beyond control, and the world is only getting better. And that man, Donald Trump, has influenced a lot of that. If you take Trump out, just use the US military instead and have a look what they've done, it's the same thing. And yeah, for me, if we can let go of anything that triggers us at all, then it doesn't have to be politics or spirituality or any topic. Is we're just in a really good place at the moment, and it's only going to continue.
Yeah. And okay, so our show, I'm sorry, there's a squirrel digging in my basket. I'm looking out there for just a moment. It just attracted my attention. My parsley. Oh man. Oh, he's getting totally into it. Okay, I would say something, but we're doing the show, so I just have to watch. Now I forgot my question again. Oh my God, he is pulling it out. That little turkey.
He doesn't like Trump.
Yeah, and we're talking about Trump. Um, okay, so my show, this will not be published for 2 weeks, so I don't want to do too much that's happening right now. But I did watch your last show because there's so many people too that are like, there's nothing happening, there's nothing going on. And I know within me, regardless of what's going on in the world, man, I'm feeling so good. The past couple months have just been, in terms of relationships, in terms of energy, just in terms of just happiness. So that to me is an indicator that things are going well. And your last show basically said things are going well. There's still a lot, let's say, behind the curtain, but there are signals that things are clicking. Like you also talked about like a lot of prisons coming online again. So Alcatraz being what's the word I'm looking for, made a prison again. Okay, talk about what you are seeing in terms of some of the really good stuff that's going on.
So since the new administration's come in, Donald Trump's put in a few certain people. And
Yeah,
when it comes to trusted information, just go onto the FBI website or the FBI X page. And
nice.
every day they're doing mass arrests, massive drug seizures, like the biggest of history. They're extraditing criminals from other countries and bringing them in for prosecution. And they're literally every day going after the most evil of evil. But you're seeing it now on their official site. And that on its own should be a good indication, because if you thought, where would I prioritize to clean up this world, you'd have to go at the very evil first of all. So a lot of this stuff has been done for the last few years without us being shown it.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's at a point where we're kind of at a meet in the middle timeline where it's actually being shown, touch on the news, but the information is there for everyone to get if you're willing to go and look for it, but on the official sources. So I'd say that's a really big one. And looking over at America, it is the blueprint, and that's where it is all going to kind of stem from. What's being done to the country now in terms of reinvesting back into the country, the amount of big organizations now want to come over to America, the amount of jobs that are going to be created there. And he's now discussing about stripping income taxes, which would get more people obviously invested in that if it's going to help improve the lives of their loved ones. And each time there'd be a new announcement which hadn't even been anticipated. And it's like, whoa, there's so much. And there's almost an envy that I want to be over in America because it doesn't look like
Oh,
that here.
yeah. So what is it like over there?
Well, you mentioned I'm positive about everything. So everything happening, even when it comes to politics and the people in charge and stuff as well. So many people get caught up. They're ruining our country. It's getting worse and worse, and it's not. It's just weird. Whatever you're being shown on your information is what they need you to watch at the moment.
Mm,
Whereas where I am, if I didn't have my phone, you wouldn't know. It's not like 2020 where there was fear everywhere and you could sense something's up here and people have got their masks on and it's not the same now. Whereas it feels like people are living their lives, maybe unaware of what's going on. And I know NPCs get used quite a lot at the moment, but they're still getting on with their lives. So I don't see it as a bad thing over here. I just feel like it's ramping up in terms of showing these politicians and showing that they're lying and the messages that they told us hasn't happened, and people just get caught up in it and buried into it. And now there's a comparison. Trump's doing stuff for his country, whereas who's doing it for us? And that's where I feel like more people stepping up.
Oh, wow. That's so great. Hey, can you explain NPCs for a moment?
Non-player characters. So I guess in this reality, there's certain people that do things automatically every single day in their own little world, in their own little days. And unless someone snapped them out the spell, they'll just be on this same cycle again and
Mhm.
again. And you see the unconscious traits within people. If you look into their eyes, it's almost like there's an empty soul there at the moment. And the best place to go and check that out is go on the underground or go into their city and just stand and watch people on their phones going at 100 miles an hour, unable to actually pay attention to what is around them.
Mm-mm. And for those who are just listening and not viewing Harry, I will state, yeah, I really watch the people that come on my show, and I tell people to be discerning. Like, most everybody who comes on is brilliant, yet Harry is smiling a lot, and I do that as well because it is so great what is happening, and it is so good, and I love seeing that from you because to me that's the truth. Yeah, you're good stuff. Tell me, let's go for a second. You got your meditation training through Deepak Chopra's organization, and I talked to you a little bit offline that I remember this one podcast that I listened to that basically said if they have a name, they're in the game. So I'm a little hesitant with Deepak. Talk about that and just spiritual gurus in general.
Yeah, so I maybe about 2016, I used to party quite hard. So my business was transforming lives. It was all health. But the weekends, I used to party really hard. And there'd be moments where I went raving, I'd do drugs, and then I feel really sorry for myself in my bed. And those moments there at my absolute lowest, where I'm beating myself up, I'd be listening to people like Wayne Dyer. And eventually I'd say Wayne Dyer then was my soul coach. And it was almost kind of led me into just keep listening to these motivational speeches. Then it led me to Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra just kept coming into my life. And it was Oprah, Deepak Chopra meditations. It was like a 21-day free meditation. And I remember keep
Isn't that so wild? That's connected to Oprah too, and Eckhart was connected to Oprah. Okay, go ahead.
because a lot. So here's another one that people really get triggered when I say it's Oprah's a good person, always has been, and it triggers so much people based on what we've been shown. All she is love. And people say, what about John of God? And what about you wouldn't know who John of God was unless they put Oprah next to him. And I really, because that was my hardest thing with 2020. That woman that I called back up said, "Oh my God, I watched the video." A week later, I've said, "Oprah's so evil and Deepak's so evil." And she went, "I don't want to hear it, don't want to hear it." So for about a year and a half, I went so in on them and it upset me that all my teachers, which I felt the connection, I felt the changes and shifts were all wrong. And I just thought all these people at the top are all evil. But the more I did my research, the more I looked into it. There's a movie being played too that you need these outrageous stories from these people you'd never expect before to be involved with the most evil. They're not. And that's why at this time now, I've done a lot on Oprah. So I've got a big love for her based on how evil I thought she was. And I was horrible on my Instagram post, her evil woman.
Thank you so much for sharing that because I thought the same thing, and now that you say that, my heart just goes that makes complete sense. What about her? They also talk about her schools in Africa and child trafficking and all of that. So yeah, what did you find out about that?
Or the same thing. How would you know about South Africa unless Oprah mentioned it? And Oprah's got all the spotlight on her. And I
Okay.
feel like Oprah, if you listen to her message, she knows her truth. She is love. She is light. She does put out people like Eckhart Tolle, which transform my
Yes.
life. And the one question that I say to anyone, if they were that evil, why are they still out there at the moment? Why are they still doing their shows? Why are they still inspiring people? Why are they still bringing in books and say, read this book, it would change your life? If they were evil, because they would have been dealt with a long time ago. So I found it very hard to accept to start with, but the more I started looking into this overall story, I started realizing that there's certain characters like Tom Hanks, who's a good person, and it triggers people because they were the entry points into this. It's almost like everyone did their own research, seeing all the videos, seeing how it all connected up, hearing the stories about South Africa and the human trafficking, but that was done deliberately.
Man, I am so glad to have you on here because I'm sure you're going to be changing my mind and lots of people. I'm going to be thinking a lot after this. Okay, because, and okay, how do I say this? That a lot of well-known people are also shut down. How are they allowed, I guess, to be and not, well, I guess they're trying to be quiet and people are trying to see them as bad players. Yeah, what is that a question? Did I even formulate that correctly?
Are you still referring to like people like Oprah?
Like Oprah and Tom Hanks, how are
Well,
they allowed to be in the spotlight then?
exactly. We were told they were the worst of the
Yes.
worst, and they've already been dealt with. They've already been taken out. You hear certain things like
Yeah.
that. But if you really trusted the US military and the people, the good guys running this show, what sense would it make to have a clone version of them still making movies, still producing films, still out there on TV if they were evil? That it wouldn't make any sense at all. You wouldn't allow them out there. Then if they've done harm to children or done the worst. And when I encourage people, that word worst, the worst, and the most evil, go and have a look what goes on in this world on a daily basis in the streets. Go and look at the real crime and the real criminals, and then look back at Oprah. And then it's like you really don't understand evil if that's your focus is.
Yeah.
So I just feel this whole awakening, it's all about information, it's all about discernment, but it's always about free thinking too. And throughout any awakening, through any journey, at any point, change is needed. You, from what you believed when you were younger to growing up, there's been loads of
Oh
times where
my
you go,
God.
actually, change. And I feel the biggest teachings are going to come from these celebrities that we've got so angered about. And at the end of it, it'd be another soul slap. I go, of course. Of course, they are
Oh,
good guys. They've always been good guys. And it was only when you first heard that shocking information where then you're like, what? It was that first initial reaction. That can't be right. But you
right.
look, but it got you involved of looking.
Oh my gracious. How, Ellen DeGeneres.
Good, good. Yeah, she's been part of this.
No
Yeah,
way.
all of them. The thing is, you need, because if there was a guy called Dave around the corner that did the most horrendous things to children, you wouldn't remember who Dave was a week later. You'd forget his name because you don't, and you would never look on his Instagram. You'd never go, he's just a sicko. But because there's Tom Hanks, you go and do it all, and it taught you how to connect the dots yourself. And a lot of people rely on information, but it was almost allowing people to get a little training into it. But the most anger I find, it's not for Donald Trump, it's for Tom Hanks. Because it's the people that are awake. You
Yeah.
should see the hate that I get when I put out. I try to stay away from mentioning Tom Hanks and Oprah now because I know at some point it will come back round where if you understand love and you close your eyes, you feel energy, right?
Hmm.
Everyone stops listening to Tom Hanks and Oprah. Go watch a recent episode of Oprah. Close your eyes through it. There won't be no agitation, no triggers or anything. It's just a soulful, loving message that you get. And that's the thing. People have to trust in their self, but you need to go and look again. But the best thing for me is there's more good people in this world doing a role, knowing that they're going to take all this hate, but at the end of it, you're going to
My
go,
God.
wow, thank you for helping.
And thank you for doing that and being, and I think about that with Trump all the time, knowing that I work with energy and how much negative energy is coming towards him and how to work with that. Because when I started coming out about stuff, in right after COVID hit, I mean, there was a lot of negativity towards me, and it was just like feeling it and somehow working through it and being okay. And he's on a world stage and Oprah. And man, you have, and I knew that there were also, when things start coming out, you're going to be really surprised in who you thought was bad and they turn out to be okay. Okay, let's go into the Kardashians for a second.
I still think they've had a role to play as well. I really do. And Armenia is going to play a big part in the world stage, especially when we go back to history and the
Mm,
location of it. I just feel that people in those positions have started getting a mass following. And I feel that the opportunities came to them to say, look, there's something bigger going on here. You've already got the love, and we can show you you're never going to lose your fan base. It's not going to change, but you're going to get these conspiracy theorists that are going to come at you. But that's like trolling, that's like hate that all celebrities are used to. I feel that they've had a role to play. And the thing is, people, I'm not saying that they're all
right.
amazing and I love them and go watch their stuff,
Yes.
but they're still out there serving. And if you look at the world that unconscious, you need to keep them occupied at some sort. So sports is another, it's an amazing thing because it gives people meaning, and it still educates people on showing what certain worlds are like. So it actually goes, I don't want to live in that world. It's too fake. It's too material. It's trash. But it still allows people to see it. So I haven't dived as much into the Kardashians, but I do feel like they've got their role to play in this too. And again, I trust the military so much. Any evil person won't be around. They wouldn't be around.
So with Cappy, the actor who was committed suicide or killed or whatever, yeah, do you, sounds like that because he talks a lot or hints to Tom Hanks and Seth Green. Um, do you think that's all not real?
Yeah, all an act, all
Oh,
part of it. And you see the Ricky Gervais where he went up on the Golden.
yes.
They're all actors that he's talking to. That was a whole set on its own because it
Dang.
brings the topic out there, and again, it gets people. This is a long process. It's been going on
Yeah.
for at least 5 years now, where a lot of people woke up and they still hold on to these names. But you need the names to hold on to because we forget
Mhm.
everything else.
Me and Harry, I'm so appreciative of you for me because you've helped me open my eyes. And you're right when you talk about Oprah, like there's so many good things that she's done that part of that didn't feel right to me, but I latched onto it and okay, tell me about thank
Watch
you.
it, watch out for your comments though, because you'll still get people that will get triggered by it and they'll go, "What about this? What about that?" And all I
Yeah.
say to people, go on my Rumble and type in Oprah, look at all the videos I've done on her, look at all the videos I've done on Tom Hanks, and I do present it in a way where, like for
Mm,
example, Tom Hanks, he's just created a series called The Americas, and he produced it, he narrated it as well. Go look how amazing it is. He created one called Master of the Air recently with Steven Spielberg about World War II. Amazing. Like evil people cannot create like that. And if you want to talk about Hollywood and these films and stuff, we all get invested in the movie. Like you get emotional, you get attached to it. That only can be done by the best. So I encourage people watch it with, and this is where the spiritual teachings come in, the attachment. Let go of it. Go look at the actual work that's being done. Can evil really do that? Because a lot of people want to be an actor themselves, and they want to be. But they spend their whole lifetime never make it. These people are doing it on a level that is the very best. And I really encourage people. If you still get triggered by that, there's just some work to do, and to trust that if you trust in what I'm saying and just go and look, the world's a better place then. Like, and you will see it clearly.
mm. And with you talking, like Harry, I already trust you, but when you said that about Oprah, my heart went yes. So it's yeah, always figure it out for yourself, but even just opening up to new ideas. This we are in such a crazy time. I do want to ask about the Clintons though and Obama, the Obamas. I is that Like suddenly I'm like doubting, doubting everything.
Yeah, but this is where I got to a stage where this war has been going on before all of us were alive.
Yeah.
We can go back to the Kennedys, and you can even
Oh,
look at
yeah.
Kennedy's dad, who owned his own movie production company called RKO, and he can come forward. And all I encourage people is to go on Netflix and watch a program called Fear City. And it's amazing. It's a real story how we took down the mob in the 80s under Reagan and
Mhm.
Rudy Giuliani. And it just shows you how good the FBI are and have always been, how they took down the mob. This is
Okay.
the same thing going on now. But what happened back then was when they got these Bob Mosses to say, right, you're going to court, people were getting taken out left, right, and center, people getting killed because they wanted to keep information silenced. After that, the internet got created. So it's almost like we've done it in New York now. Now we need to connect everything together because that's how you take enterprise down. And then the internet was the way that he did it all. That anything that ever goes on the internet, the NSA, the military always had access to. And it's been since the 80s that, for me, it started speeding up this whole process.
Okay. Wow. All right, let's talk about for thank you for everything. I want to talk about your connection with God through this. What is that like now?
Well, I've had a rocky 6 months where I had a biblical moment and I ended up in a mental institution in Brazil. This was
Wait a minute. When did this happen?
in January or November, December, and I come back in January. I was in there for 36 days in a row. Yeah, that
Wait,
was
recently? Wait, hold
yeah,
on. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Okay, go through that again. I was not expecting that at all.
yeah. So how would I do? So my relationship with God, I in 2020, that quote you said, when the world went into lockdown, my heart opened up, and I started working with this woman that had cancer, and I just fell in love with her. She
Okay.
was a Brazilian woman, and it changed everything because I started doing the meditations
So
where
romantically fell in love with her or just loved her?
no, it was like this. It was love. It changed my description of love because
Okay.
I didn't realize I'd been with a lot of women my whole life. I've heard a lot of stories. I've seen a lot of relationships, but this was on another level where my spirit was rising with this woman,
Hmm.
and all I saw was someone fighting through this illness. Where I just saw this warrior, but it changed my whole perception. I wanted to be the best version of me, and nothing else mattered. And what started happening was I was always talking about look out for the signs and trust in the meditations, but I was getting words coming out of my meditations to a point where it'd be a bubble and it'd pop out. And as an example, she was in Brazil and I needed to get out there, but it was red zone country at the time, and I tried going through Spain, and they didn't let me in. And the guy at the security said, "You're not going to get out here at this time." So I went back and meditated. How am I going to get out there? And two words popped out, and it said chariot and Mexico. So I literally, within about, I don't know, 2 minutes, I had to just get out of my meditation and type in Mexico chariot. And the search took me to Mexico City, where there was a chariot statue. And next to the statue was an advert for the Sheraton Hotel. So I literally booked that flight to Mexico City and I got to Brazil in 2 days. And it was almost like, oh my God, it showed me. And I had another instance where I was talking to a lady and she said, "Have you seen this Evergrande corruption that's just come out in the news? My friend was a manager and she didn't know." And I'd never heard of the company, hadn't heard of anything like that. And I did another meditation and then I had two words, parlor and Matthew. So I typed in Matthew Parler and he worked as the treasury for that company she was just talking about. And I started getting my knowings at that point. But it was that woman, the reason why I mentioned her, I had a day in October, October the 11th it was,
Okay,
and
when 2000
it
what?
2020.
20. Okay, we're still in 20. All right, thank you.
So I've met this woman in March and I just started falling for her and it was, yeah, it was a love story. But October 2020, I did a post on Instagram with me on the highest mountain in the world in Hawaii, and you just see the stars. I just put a quote of the day: "Look out for the signs." And as the day started, 11:11 popped up, 11:11, and then it just started going silly. Where I did my body fat reading on the body fat machine, and it was 11.1.
Oh man.
And then throughout the day I did this meditation with this shared living that I did and the experience it had there, and there was 11 viewers in 11 hours. And I was telling this girl in the coffee shop on the Sunday, like, all these signs. She went, "Oh, it's just a sign." And as we walked out, it was the biggest, clearest rainbow you've ever seen. And it was almost like it made that weekend perfect for me. But that was my knowing with God, that no one ever could take that away from me. And I've experienced a lot of stories where it only can be divine intervention, or it only can be something, there you go, that is just for you.
Mm-mm. So, this woman in Brazil, does she exist for you anymore?
No, she passed away. And I was in
Oh
Colombia
my
last year and she
God.
passed away. And I didn't accept it. And the thing is, I had to come back to put my companies into liquidation. I went back out there and she got the cancer that come back. And there was just conflict all the time. And she asked me to stop talking about the truth, all the stuff that I was putting out. And I said I couldn't. So it wasn't working at that point, but I had it set in my head that I would see her again. This would be over, the true stuff, and my life would be in Brazil. And what happened in Colombia, I got a message to say she passed, but I didn't accept it. And then I went back to Brazil earlier on. It was like October last year. So in November, I was having all these biblical moments, all these Christ experiences where I actually told all my followers, I'm going to be doing 40 days and 40 nights and I'm not going to be on anymore.
Hmm.
And what happened was I was walking on the beach, Copacabana, and I said out loud to myself, this is my best self. And I said, I wish my mum and dad could see me right now. And a few days later, I ended up in the mental institution.
How?
I did too much cannabis,
Okay.
and I was having all these voices of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, things that I hadn't really dived into. And I had this massive out of body experience where I don't feel like I come back. I turned into a rainbow. I was the oracle,
Oh
and I
my
was
gosh.
I was literally talking to myself and reenacting all these different events. Yeah, it looking from the outside, it looked like I went mental. But for me, it was all real. I was time traveling. I went to the start of the Great Awakening. But the one thing that really happened to me, and this is the bit I can't shake off, is I reconnected with her. And it was like the story of Mary Magdalene was connected by the Holy Spirit through meditation, etc., on her Gospels. I had her controlling my whole left side, and she was showing me how the world worked. And it was so real. Like, it, if people watch the Inception, the film, and they go into limbo and they create the world together, she already created it and she was showing me. And I remember laying on my pillow and it was her. My pillow was her, and I just said I would take this now. But it just led me holding on to that I went crazy from the outside world. Yeah, I got myself sectioned and I got rescued effectively by my mum and dad. They got me out eventually. They had to get a doctor to fly me home. I was stuck in there 36 days in the bed.
Okay.
And
Yeah. And a classical mental hospital, that is just not great.
no,
And
not at all.
that's so who put you in there? How did you even get in there?
Well, in the apartment that I was in,
Yeah.
I was having all these moments where I was talking to myself and I was almost calling out the spirits from all my life. It was like I got my whole life out, and everyone that I'd done wrong to and everyone that I misjudged, I was speaking it all out, but I was shouting more and more that the fire brigade had to come and get me out of the apartment,
God.
and they sedated me. And I remember waking up in the hospital and I realized what death was, because there was no heartbeat. I had no concept of what's going on. I just saw people walking past, numb as, and it was just blissful. And I remember seeing doves at that moment. Real doves flew past me in my head, and then they put me in the mental institution where I said I don't need to be in here, and
Yeah.
I managed to get myself out of there after 12 days using common law. But I ended up back in there again after. And this was in Brazil, so no one spoke much English in there either.
Harry, oh, holy smokes. Okay, so the second time you were in, was that when your parents helped you?
No, what happened was I got out because they said you have to fly back to England. The doctor needs it, and I said I don't need it. And I managed to get out, and I had 5 days where I didn't sleep, but I had no concept of time. Everything was like an AI reality. And I was reenacting all these different times. I thought I went back to a reset, and all the brotherhood was on the beach, and I was connecting with all these guys, and I thought they were telling me something else because they weren't speaking English to me, and it was
Yeah.
just, yeah. There was so much that went on. I thought I was working for the military. I thought I met the Brazilian Mary Magdalene, who was 88 years old on the beach. But I met all these people. I met all these people,
Yeah.
and what happened? I got picked up in the park because I was just walking, talking to myself, and they said, "Look, we're going to take you to the hospital." And I said, "I don't need to go." And then I ended up back in that same place again. And the reason why I shared that story is I had everything at that point where I'm like, this is me. This is the life that I want. It's simple. I'm on the beach every morning. I'm meditating, and then 2 days or 3 days later, I felt like I lost it all by my actions, based on me searching to go deeper into my world. And it's just to keep present more than anything else, because like life is a gift, and the thing that I took from all of it, nothing felt real anymore in this world. That even the dogs look fake. The only thing that I wanted, because I was so lost in those few days, was the physical realness. And people talk about everyone's stuck in 3D. 3D is the best place to be. Let every other dimension come back to you in 3D, because it's your feelings and your touch, which is everything. I lost that.
Whoa. Well, okay, you lost it, yet you really connected that this is a matrix, and well, that so much of it isn't real, but so much of it is real. What a neat. I know it's challenging, but a neat experience. Am I saying that from your perspective that none of this is real, but yet it is so real?
So it turned
Huh.
into, I was going to give all my suitcase away to all the homeless people because I thought
Okay.
I was at the beginning of time again. I had no concept that all this, like, yeah, it's almost like I shifted.
Right.
Time was an illusion at that point, and I
Yes.
just thought I was playing my role in this movie, and I was convinced that woman was going to turn up and we were going to get married out there. But it was just, yeah, there was low, and I look back and I think, and you got to remember, I was in a bed for 36 days, going, "Oh my God, like what have I done? None of this is real. My life doesn't make sense anymore." And I'm I'm in a good place now, but I keep getting taken back to my experience there because they were so real, and
Yeah.
it was that love part. It was the love part more than anything else.
What, so what brought you back?
Um, when I went to when I come back here, I was a night in the hospital in the UK, and I got dropped back because I remember I just landed and I opened my eyes. Everything was so clear, and it was just I know I'm back now. And it's taken me a long time to process because I have been procrastinating. My ego has been going off all the time, and I have been questioning a lot of things. But the one
Yeah.
thing that I still have is my knowing. All the information that I've been looking into for the years, my connection with God myself, and it was the story of my life. Looking back, I had wrong, and I got a lot of things wrong because I overanalyzed my past too much, and it just taught me to the bring things back into now, write things down a lot more. But I have people to speak to now, which I didn't in Brazil.
Man, sounds like you had another huge waking up, a dark night of the soul, but I don't even know if it's a dark night of the soul. It's just a what I can't even put words to it. Harry, thank you so much for sharing that also, because that also to me real. You're so real. We all, especially these folks like you and I that are, attached to the divine light, we've been through stuff, and it just opens us up to see more. And wow, how real quick, because I'm looking at time. I want to do the practice in a moment. Oh gosh, I still have more questions for you.
Okay.
Jen, who was on the show before, how did y'all get connected together?
She turned up. So I used to have, well, I still got one now, an online community, a small
Yeah,
group of us, and we used to just meet every week, talk about what was going on, but more spiritual talk. And she just joined in
yeah,
and she shared a story and she was just going through the beginning of it. And I saw Jen at her lowest. And it was just the evolution of all the hurdles and all the decisions and all the other people's opinions getting in the way. And it was back and forth all the time to a point where, well, I'm making a decision on this now. And she stood on it. After a while, she stood on it. And then she saw the changes from it. And it was like this two steps forward, one step back all the time. And yeah, we just saw, just physically, if you go back and watch the old videos, you see the changes where there's this light glowing around her now. Like even the fact she come on your podcast and told a story, like
yeah.
that wouldn't have been Jen when we first met at all. And it just shows you what can be done when you do take ownership and start standing in the truth. And that's exactly what she did.
That's neat because like I was the first show that she's done. I don't know if she's done other shows, but it was, yeah, just hearing her talk about and the fear that she was in and how she's come out of that. It was remarkable. What, Harry? We want you here in the U.S., but you are here, and I know you lived in Arizona for a while, so you were here for. Okay, two questions I want to ask you for folks. Okay, let me see if I word this correctly. That are, I don't know if this. Okay, I'm gonna start with this. For folks that are just waking up, or for folks that are already aware of the Great Awakening, what is one of the most important things to know? And you've already said like the FBI is good. There's so much, like you can just go on their website right now and see, and knowing that there are all still these, this is bad, this is good, to be discerning. Oh, maybe that's it, just to be discerning of everything. Okay, what would your advice be with that?
I would say start with the foundation that the good guys are in control. The US military are running an operation. Donald Trump is the good guy. And I back that up by saying, go and watch this documentary on YouTube. It's called The Great Awakening by the Bonfire guy. And it's the foundation for anything. And people are reluctant to go and watch it. But anyone that watches it, I say, take this one question in with you. At what point did we ever lose control? And after you watch it, you cannot say that we've ever lost control. You'll see that we've been in control the whole time. But that's a foundation, knowing whatever time frame it's going to take, we're in full control. And that you don't ever have to get caught up in any little smaller detail or it's not happening or it's taking too long. It's no, just trust it. Like because of that, that has never changed and they're so good, it will never change. But if you actually have that as your foundation, then you see things in a different light. And the other advice is love or fear, which we'll come on to on my thing in a minute. If
Yeah.
you're getting angry or triggered or frustrated about anything, you're not in your truth. And if you can know that we're in control, that is love, that is truth, then you have to address yourself first. And it only can come from you. The awakening is in and
Mm.
you wake up to everything else. And it starts with messengers, the way they deliver the information. The people you used to watch, I guarantee, have changed to the information that you get now because there's sometimes you just don't resonate with that person anymore. And usually it'll be certain information they put out where there is fear, there is anger, and it doesn't feel right anymore. That's the starting point. Truth is that simple. Look at the messengers, look at Donald Trump again. When does he ever get angry? Ever?
He's
And
very direct,
he's
very
direct, he's
direct,
calm, he
and he
puts
can
the
use some
information.
like he says stupid a lot. Uses some apparently not so loving language, but yeah, he is very typically very calm, and yeah. Okay, great advice, Harry. I'm thinking, and we'll talk about this after the show. I think it'd be nice to have you on. Like, I only have one other regular guest. Yeah, but I would almost like to consider that with you, even if it's every 3 months or something. We'll talk about that later. Because yeah, you're good stuff. What for the practice today to help people ascend and evolve? What would you bring to the table?
Just be
Yeah. So
practice.
I started working with people that had cancer, and one of those person was that woman that I fell in love with. And so I got to experience the whole system, and I got to start talking about death a lot more.
Yeah.
I did a soul midwife course as well, was looking at the dying phases. And so the question that I'm going to start this with is, when you're on your deathbed, what words of wisdom will you leave to the world?
Hmm.
And it's a
Okay.
question to ponder. So when I'm on my deathbed, or I don't even need to be on my deathbed, my words of the wisdom to the world is simplify life down to a choice. And this just takes things back to a foundation because the soul is so simple. I call myself Harry the Soul Coach, but my focus is really the ego. You don't ever have to change the soul once you're in your space. That is just pure perfection. It's love, it's bliss, it's the ego. And if you simplify life down to a choice, you can bring it down to two components: your soul and your ego. That's it. And if we start at the soul, if I gave you a duality, we work at duality, the soul, positive or negative,
Hmm.
what would you say? Positive or negative?
Well, I would say positive, but
And so the soul takes positive, the opposite, ego takes negative.
mhm.
So underneath ego and soul, you can then layer it into, I just say, three segments because you'll see how it evolves from that. And the reason why I say this to people is if you want to heal, if you want to ascend, if you want to have a deeper connection with God, you only can do that in that soul space. Soul, love or fear? It's love.
Mhm.
So your soul then becomes love. If you're not in love, which is the opposite, you're in fear, which means you're in your ego again. And what, as a coach, I'm paying attention to the words that people speak
Mhm.
and positive or negative words. I can tell instantly when someone's speaking, right, there's ego popping up. Then I can start figuring out where is that coming from. So the the thing that I would just wanted to present today was really just the three components, and you can see the way that we can layer it out. So ego or soul, your soul, we can start there. We could describe the soul as very simple: love, peace, joy, bliss, happiness. The opposite is the ego. And you can think of the ego as the mind. It's very complex. There's so much you could describe the ego with, so many different layers, the way that we behave, our character, our body language, the anger, the hate, the frustration. If you get caught in the mind, there's so much to focus on. So keep it simple. If it's not your truth, ego. How do we get back to your truth first before we address the ego? Because it then becomes your teacher. When you're having a conversation with anyone, if they're agitated or angered or triggered, you have to address the energy first. There's no point having a conversation because you're not standing in your truth. You've already entered a negative energy space. So rather than trying to argue or try and get your message across, address their energy first. Love or fear. And love and fear as a duality. The problem with the word love, it defines every other feeling. For me, it's the ultimate feeling. But love on the spectrum of love and fear, love starts in the silence. So if I ask you just to close your
Yeah.
eyes now, if you're watching this, you close your eyes now, and I ask you right now, are you in love or fear? There's
Love.
a, it's only a choice. So you're in love. So
Yes.
already now in this moment, you are healing. You're in your soul. You're in your truth. So how do you get out of that in a day? It's your mind will get in the way, and now I'm ill again. Now I've got this problem again. Come back to love. But love starts in this. It's so simple, and then people start realizing, wow, I don't have to chase this love that we've defined it as the most euphoric. You start there because what happens is when you do have these moments where you feel something, it's like, whoa, that was a different level of love. So love or fear, describe it as feelings inside your body. peace, joy, bliss, calmness, stillness. You could even say okay, because I'm still not in fear. I'm okay. The opposite then is when you start going into it, when you get triggered, frustrated, if there's anxious, depression, anything like that, to a off spectrum, anger and hate. Anger and hate is so ego that there's no point addressing anything else until we bring them back to neutral. And you make them aware of that. So it helps people just identify how to protect their energy. But also, anytime you do get caught out of it, you need to get yourself back to stillness first, because you cannot make a clear decision when the mind's in the way. So all clarity comes in that space. So love or fear, simplify life down to a choice. But if we looked at it from a cellular level, the cell that has everything about you in that one cell, and you've got trillions of cells that always regenerating all the time, always dying. You're dying every day. Your cells do. But in that one cell, the cell only has two responsibilities: grow or protect. So if I put that duality, grow is the soul, grow is flow, protect would be the ego in this case. And protection is a good thing, but so's your ego when you work with it. The ego lets you know. So grow or protect. And Bruce Lipton did a lecture on a course that I did where they used stem cells. And he said, if you pulled one cell out and put it in a petri dish and you put food that had nutrients in there, by the end of the day, that cell moves towards the food on its own, which means God is in every cell. Because if you put the same cell in a petri dish with poison in there, the cell moves away from it, protect.
Mm-hmm.
So it knows instinctively. And what happens is you can look at it then from a cellular level, what takes place in your body. When you're in that flow state, when you're doing things where your mind's out the way, where time flies, you're doing activities that you love, you're expressing yourself, you're creating, your body's in harmony. And what they showed is your blood, your energy levels are going through all your vital organs, all your energy centers. But the moment you go into that fight or flight, and fight or flight is only perceived by the information that you're providing it. So if you're getting stressed out about Tom Hanks now, you're in fight or flight. But what they showed, that the energy disperses from the natural harmony of your centers, and it goes to your limbs as if you were to run, because it can't perceive it all. And what they showed was the comparison before you're even born. They studied birds, and these birds were in two different environments. One was more in a fearful state where it was protection, they could have been attacked at any time, and one was like in this loving sanctuary, and they were pregnant. And the bird's DNA were exactly the same, but the two babies come out, they look different. One of the birds had longer arms. So if the blood goes and disperses to your arms from fight or flight, the bird that was in fear, that was born, the arms were longer. So even on the animals, so it just shows you the environment that you put yourself in your external world, but also internally influences it. So coming back to ego or soul, grow or protect, how often you're in flow? How often are you learning? How often are you stopping yourself doing things? Stop yourself from speaking out loud and standing on your truth. And again, it's that balance to find out what is my truth at this moment. And if you treat every day as a new day, something once a day that you're in flow, if you're listening to this now, you're learning. You're in flow state. You're in that calm state. Take that as the positive for today. Well, I was in flow today, which means I was in love today, which means we'll come on to the next part, which for me is the one that you can take away from all of this, is the words that we speak. So we simplify life down to a choice, ego or soul. It's too simple for most people. Duality is too hard. You bring it to words. And this is what I really helped with Jen as well. The words that we speak change everything.
Yes, they do.
And for every word in the English language, there's an opposite. So every negative word, there's a positive word. So if I ask you just to close your eyes for me now, just let me just show you the power of words by
Okay.
just making the small changes. And I just want you to feel the difference between the two. So never forget. Don't stop. Don't give up. Always remember. Keep going. Keep striving. Can you feel the difference there? Keep your eyes closed though, but let me just show you the power of real words. So all you can hear now is my voice. So all I want you to do is just imagine a loved one, someone that you care dearly about, you love. I just want you to imagine them smiling, laughing, an overwhelming amount of joy, and then feel that energy change in the body. Slight shift. So the words that we speak influences change instantly. And the words delivered with a feeling then keeps you in that flow state. So I encourage people now, pay attention to your words, because that is something that you can control. So if you are getting caught up, you are getting triggered, your words is your truth. Whatever you speak will come true. But you also have the ability now to write. And if you look at the word think, writing is a form of thinking, but you then cut that word in half. You've now put it on ink. It's not in your body anymore. You've put it down on a piece of paper. So you've got the wishy-washy words, and we do it in the English countries a lot. Are you coming? Are you coming out tonight? Or I might do, maybe, potentially. Yeah, I hope so. But your soul knows I don't want to go out.
Yep.
But your ego will say those words because you don't want to deal with what they say if you say, no, I'm not coming out.
Yep.
So what happens is sometimes we get influenced, we do go out. And in my old life, I would have had a drink. I'd have stayed out later than intended. And then I got home and I'm laying in bed feeling sorry for myself. And that little voice goes, told you. You knew you didn't want to go out. And if you did go out, you've lied to your soul. And if you don't go out, because you're being truthful for your soul, you lied to your mates because you gave them wishy-washy words instead. So whenever we ask a question, speak your truth, no or yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know, it's a feeling inside your body, which is a no in. So when you've got that feeling, love, because if there's a resistance there, then it's something for you to question. Why is the resistance coming out? You feel sometimes you don't want to go. Rather than question it, just trust in that feeling, ego or soul. If my ego's going off, it can't be my truth at this moment. So no, not today. Be honest with it. And then the last one is because this is a spiritual talk as well, is the words that we use to accept our experiences. And what happens is you'll be on a spiritual journey and you will have these magical moments. But we use certain real words like, that was unreal. That was unbelievable. That
Yeah.
was incredible. And God's saying that was real. That
Yeah.
was believable.
Yeah.
That was credible. Play around with the words that you use, because you'll say that's crazy, that's mad. And we naturally say it all.
Yeah.
In awareness, when you then say, no, actually, it was real, watch the feeling that comes with it
Mm-hmm.
after.
Good. Yes. Harry, when you talk about the love relationship, hey, that was really great, by the way. So I was thinking about, am I even going to bring it up? So on my one podcast that I talked about, I started in this divine relationship. So divorced, and that's almost been 5 years now. And through that, major healing before I even went out into anything. So knowing that the love that we know right now, that's going to be expanded, and that we really didn't have a concept of what that is. And so I did want to bring that up today because you've talked about that too. Because when this relationship first started, I was like, I can't believe this. And my mentor also said, stop that. It's real. It's happening. So, and you've prayed for it. You've, spiritually worked on it. Why wouldn't this be happening for you right now? So moving into, and that's just moving more into love and God, and just things that seem, and we are moving into this time where things that seem unbelievable, they're not unbelievable. I mean, that's what's been hidden from us for so long, this beauty and this wow factor that can be a part of our lives constantly.
Every day. And that's the
Every
beautiful thing.
day.
You can actually take that into life with you and actually see the beauty in everything, can actually notice, appreciate, take it in. And then it's another memory. It was when you were present, and it was that time where you actually remember the inner voice and dialogue that you had and go, wow, I actually noticed it for a change.
Wow. And let me add on to Harry too in talking your truth. Like one big thing, like I've made sure that I speak the truth for it's probably been like 14, I don't know how many years, over a decade. So even to the point when someone asks you how you're doing, I don't flippantly just go, "Oh, well, okay," or whatever. Like
Not
I
bad.
yeah, I take for a second and I'm like, okay, well, how am I really doing today? And I think that's so to be conscious of every moment and to be in truth in every moment. Really great. Thank you for showing up today, for being here with me, and for communicating such good stuff. Harry, I think we're done now. Okay.
Well,
Hey.
all I'm going to say is thank you for having me on. And if you are watching the show, watch your ego because you'll get to this point.
Yeah.
Did your ego go off today when any of the names mentioned? It's gone off. Is that a truth, love or fear? And a truth is a feeling. It doesn't matter what words are described. Words can never describe it. So it's gone off for a reason. And I encourage people, if it's gone off and you're aware of it, trust in the messenger and go and look at the stuff and then make your
Yeah.
own decision to it. Because I present it in a way where I want you to see the way that I put out there. Because when you realize that there's so many more good people in this world, you just don't get shown a lot of the evil. We get shown the bad stuff at the moment because we're being educated. We're getting taken on a journey so it never happens again because we're all aware of it. But if you also then trust for that to be happening now, there's all these good people that are being in play for us. But it allows you to start enjoying things a lot more and stop putting these. I can't watch that person anymore. I can't. You can be the decision maker throughout all of it rather than depending on anyone else.
Well, and to your point too, when you mentioned those things, like my heart just switched. It was like, I mean, it was immediate that, oh my gosh, wow. So even that not having to research, and I just knew automatically that what you said was the truth. Man, all right, hang with me for just a second. All right, y'all, stay tuned next week. At things, just more information, more good stuff coming your way. Love doing this. Love all it, Harry. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, True Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.